when it comes to loneliness, what I want you to understand is that you are a walking paradox. So when we think about this understanding of being alone, one, pun intended, you are not alone when it comes to feeling alone. But what I want to get into is how and why you're on this journey of feeling alone, and how, in fact, you feeling alone now is part of the journey of feeling complete and whole and connected with all things. Okay. This is a part of it. So even now, as I'm saying this and writing this down, I see something here and I'll explain it to you. It's amazing how revelations and things happen even while you're in the midst of teaching or sharing knowledge with people. Okay. So being alone, here's you, right? And here's everything else. Okay. And you feel like there is a serious disconnection, lack of connection with all things around you, all things that you love, all people that you love, even a disconnection with the universe itself, with God itself, that you feel like in order for you to connect with God, you have to do certain things, prayer, you have to meditate regularly. You have to be a good person. All these different things you feel like you have to do in order to connect with ultimately the universe, right? And this is really a symptom of you feeling disconnected from those things, you feeling all alone from those things. So what I want to share with you is why you feel alone, what is the mechanism and the means by which creates that feeling, and how you will eventually ascend beyond that into a deeper understanding of connectedness with all things. Now, when we think about the universe, we always have to come to this understanding, right? We always have to remember that the universe consists of contrasts. Okay? It consists of what we often call opposites. Okay? What I like to say is two sides of a spectrum. Those opposites look like good, right? Bad, up, down. We can even go left to right. We can go hot, cold, right? We can say something versus nothing. Okay? Essentially everything, and I mean everything, has its polar opposite, or what I like to say is contrast, or its other side of the spectrum, because we're talking about essentially the same thing, right? When we say good, bad, we're talking about ethics, right? We're talking about morals, and there's a range from good to bad, right? When we talk about direction, there is up and down. When we talk about temperature, right? The spectrum of temperature is hot and cold. When we talk about the spectrum of things, right, of elements, of tangibles or intangibles, it ranges from something to nothing, right? We can even get into, say spirituality, and even religion can be two sides of a spectrum, right? So we can go down and down and down the rabbit hole of what it means, or what and how the universe represents itself in everything that we experience by way of contrast, by way of what some people call opposites. Now, the reason why I don't really get into opposites is because opposites tends to mean that I spelled opposite all wrong. Opposites tend to mean that they are completely different, right? But they're really the same thing, as I established, right? Hot and cold, usually people associate those with two different things, but they're not. They're just spectrums of temperature. So they're not different. Yeah, you can, so that's more of a example of semantics, right? So you here consist of two things. And I always use this symbol because this is a symbol that we can identify, right? Yin and yang. Two things: ego and consciousness. And my people who listen to me often, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Now, the reality is you're more consciousness than ego. But in this physical realm, ego is easier to attach yourself to attach your identity to. And so when we get into the ego's mechanism and reason, right, is to protect you. Is to protect you in this physical realm, right? From physical harm, mental harm, emotional harm, things of that nature, those experiences that are innate within the human experience. And those things are not necessarily a part of your consciousness. Say, once we ascend beyond or outside of our physical bodies, we won't need to worry about these things, right? We won't need to worry about protecting our bodies. We won't need to worry about protecting anything for that matter, because when, as pure consciousness, we are infinite. We are, unstoppable, undefeatable, unattackable. Like, we are essentially infinite beings that have no concerns, right? No worries, concerns, or no issues, right, to worry about. And so here, though, in this physical realm, we are equipped with the ego in order to be mindful about the things that we do have to worry here in this physical world. And so it is easy to attach oneself and attach your identity, right, to the ego. That's what most people do. And the spiritual journey is about transcending the ego and getting into consciousness. So as we talk about you being alone, I want you to understand that this stems from you being identified with the ego and the ego's mechanisms of, programming, belief systems, fears, trauma, things of that nature, right? Those things all fuel the ego. They're all a part of the ego's mechanisms and ways of basically showing up to protect you. Okay, that's its intention. And lately, I've been referring to the ego as the overprotective parent. If you look at your ego in your consciousness, when it comes to the totality of you, the ego is like the overprotective parent, whereas consciousness is the chilled, relaxed parent that trusts you and knows that eventually you'll do the right thing, right? That you're coming to the right place and yet you're on the right path. So the ego is the one that's the loudest right now, right? Is the one that is really pushing you and pulling you in different directions, right? Because of this nature to protect you while you're here in the physical realm. The ego is what is basically a requirement of this game called life. And so when we think about the quality of the ego, I always compare it to a separator, right? It separates you. It separates you from everything else. This is why when there is you feel a separation from everything else. Okay? Everything else seems outside of you, but within your reach. That is because you're identifying with the ego. Now, remember, there's nothing wrong with all these things. This is not wrong. And we get to understand that this is part of the journey of why we're here. So if you feel alone, understand that that is the journey. That is the game. That is how you play. That is you engaging in the game. All right. So we all feel this at some point in our lives. You recognizing it now by listening and watching are opening up, right? And advancing forward with this understanding. Okay, this is why I feel alone. It's because I'm identifying with my physical self. I'm identifying with this worldly, earthly plane of existence and this earthly physical reality. Again, nothing wrong here. This is what we're here to do. So now that you're recognizing the ego is a separator, And it is separating you from all things. Why? To protect you. So now that we recognize that, we have to ask ourselves, is this protection actually serving us? Is it productive toward the life that we wish to live in our ultimate purpose here? Right? Because what happens is when we feel like we are needing to protect ourselves from everything, we are not, we're not, say, pursuing, right, our dreams because we are protecting ourselves from those dreams, whether it is if those dreams manifest or if those dreams don't, right? We are protecting ourselves. Oftentimes people say, oh, I'm good. What if I don't make it? What if it doesn't work out? We have this kind of conversation, these layers of conversation where we say, oh, what if I don't make it? What if I fail? But a lot of times most people are even more scared of succeeding. So we'll say, your dreams. What if you are looking to experience the love of your life, right? You are essentially identifying with the separation of these things and feeling like they are potentially something that can harm you, that can cause you hurt, right? People do not want to pursue love because they were hurt once by love. So they think, and then they stop. They cease to pursue it. They say, well, I don't want to get hurt again. Well, I'd rather get hurt infinite times for the potential to actually meet the love of my life, right? That's how I think. But I'm one of those people that are willing to push through in order to get what I want. Whereas a lot of people, they're fearful and they are led by the ego. Whereas I want to be led by consciousness. So you have to understand that the reason why you feel alone is because you are identifying with this state of the ego. And the ego is separating you from all the things that you should be experiencing in this life, okay, as you, because that is what you, right? When we think about who you are, we essentially sparks, or what I like to say, individualized expressions of, right, of God. God, the source, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, the universe. You are an individualized expression of that, seeking to have an experience called you, living your dreams in love, in complete health. Okay. All those things, right? Rich. That is what this individualized expression of God wishes to experience. You, rich, living your dreams in love and fully healthy. But if you are identifying with the ego, you are going to be separated from these things. You're going to be separated from these people. Okay. Therefore, you're going to feel alone. Now, as you come into understanding this, the mechanism of this, you realize that, hey, if ego is one side of the spectrum of self, of you, then guess what? The beautiful thing is on the other side of that is consciousness. So you're not far from the self-realization. You're not far from the unraveling, from the unfoldment. You're not far from recognizing your purpose. You're not far from actually connecting and feeling one with all things. Okay. So what I want you to do is think about this you as identity, right? Your ego is what you are identifying with. And so identity comes in a multitude of layers, infinite layers. You are simply identifying as far as your skin. Okay. Like there are many layers of you, right? There is your consciousness, there's your brain, there's a cellular level. We can go all the way down what makes you, you. And so you, though, most of us do, we tend to recognize ourselves, right, as the body. And that usually ends with your skin. This is what the circle represents, right? The circle represents your physical body. The circle also represents where that physical body ends, which is usually your skin. And then you stop identifying with that. And then you think everything outside of you is separate from you. But it's not really like that. Okay. So let's get over the ego. Let's get past separation and let's get into consciousness. Okay. So imagine you no longer simply identify with simply you being the thing within the skin. Okay. Now, it's important to really think about your body and your health. Yes. But remember, all of this is about layers. And so when I'm going to put this here. When you take away this identification that the ego has given you, you take away this idea that you are simply within the skin, okay? And all the things that you desire are outside or have no boundaries, just like your skin had no boundaries, right? You took away the skin, so therefore there's no boundary there. In terms of you identifying or recognizing that there is a wall there, when you then take away this idea of separation, because you are no longer identifying with the ego, you are identifying with consciousness, then this idea of you begins to dissolve, or I should say expand. And instead of it just going around this limited idea of what you are, you then expand it out, including all of the things that you desire. Why? Because the reason why you desire them is because they are you. You don't desire anything that is outside of who you are or who you're meant to be. You see, I don't desire, you see, that's the thing. I can't even think of what it is that I don't desire because it's not even who I am. You see, it's like, I don't desire to be a professional Frisbee thrower. Okay. I tried to think of something because that's just not who I am. Right. I don't desire to be a librarian, even though I love books. Right. But I don't desire to be stuck in one place reading pages upon pages upon pages. So those are some examples. They were based on things that I am into. So really, it wasn't quite accurate. You know what I mean? Like, I am interested in books. I'm interested in learning, but I had to figure out a different framework by which I would not enjoy actually reading books. So essentially, all these things that you desire are you. Okay. Now, in order for you to experience this, you have to break down and dissolve the concept of the ego. And you have to let go of the ego in terms of it protecting you. And when you recognize that, okay, yeah, your body needs protection. Okay. You have to be mindful. You have to be responsible with this thing called the body. Right? You have to be mindful. You have to be responsible with the body, but you are way beyond the body. And if anything, consciousness controls the body. How you think about the body, how you feel about the body, what you put into the body, what you do with the body determines the overall optimization of the body. So your consciousness controls the body, even though your identity or your ego identifies with the body. You see, consciousness is saying that you are more than, okay? So you are more than just you isolated within this body, okay? Just like I refer to the body as the temple of God, God being your consciousness. But we know that God can extend and is outside of the temple, is outside of the churches in all things. So you must not just simply identify with this circle, with this temple, with this boundary. You must recognize that you are more than the circle, than the boundary. You are everything that is within your vicinity, whereas in your domain of existence and thought. Okay. That is you essentially creating your reality. So as we get into, and this is what I saw when I wrote down alone, is that the true essence of your consciousness is that all things, right? All things are one. All are one. So instead of looking at yourself as separate, you recognize that the true essence of being alone is, on a deeper metaphysical level, is recognizing that all is in fact one. All things that you think about, feel, experience, wonder, fantasize, wish, those are all one within you. You are, again, the center. You are the nucleus, right? You are the focal point of your universe. And you create that universe by means of your consciousness, by means of your point of view, your perspective. And so when you feel alone, recognize that there's a different quality of loneliness. When we think about, again, the spectrum of you is ego consciousness. Now, you experience being alone differently from your ego than you do from your consciousness. When you are alone from your ego, it is very shallow, right? But when you experience alone from consciousness, it is more vast and inclusive of all things, of all people, of all experiences, of all timelines, of all versions of self. So here, you've been experiencing alone from the place of your ego, which is only focused in on this very narrow you perspective of self in this bubble. But the reality is, if you are to really think about being alone in a way that is the most beautiful, is to expand that bubble outside of just simply you and recognizing that it is inclusive of everything and everyone. So you can include family, friends, strangers. So in essence, you are not alone in terms of you being by yourself, because you as consciousness, you're not just one singular dot of existence. You are, in fact, the universe, your consciousness, projecting itself out. You are projecting yourself out into all these different things. Okay. And these things are reflecting back to you. So the sense of loneliness shifts dramatically. You could still say, yeah, I'm still alone, but you recognize that that loneliness is from a place of connectedness with all things, because all things are essentially you. You are all things by way of your consciousness, by way of your point of view and your perspective. So you are not alone. You are all one with everything. Understand, you are not alone here. Okay. Now, I've already established, even from the egotistical point of view, you're not alone in the sense that we all experience this. So you're not alone in being alone, but understand and trust in yourself that that will eventually dissolve and transform and expand into recognizing through consciousness you are all and you are one with everything. Okay. This is your essentially your destination when it comes to spirituality. This essentially is what we talk about when we get into self-realization. Okay. When we get into self-realization, this is what we're saying. The self-realization is that you are sending out, you are projecting, you are sending out a vibration, a frequency, okay, a point of view that thus is reflected back to you because you are the center point of the universe. And so you realize that self is the creator of your entire experience. And your entire experiences are essentially there to reveal self, to reveal to you who you truly are. All right. Now, this was heavy, but this was fun. So think differently about this idea of being alone. Even when you are feeling, in your room, you're feeling kind of depressed, you're feeling a little bit sad, recognize that that experience is there for a reason, that your higher self is waking you up, is showing you something, is trying to reveal to you something. And so if you sit and you say, get up and you just meditate for 5 minutes, I want you to just simply extend yourself out beyond the boundaries of your skin. Feel the bed. If you have a pet, then recognize that the pet is with you. When you expand out into that room, recognize that the room, everything in the room is within you, is with you. When you expand out, imagine outside of the house or the apartment, everything is with you, all of the animals, all of the birds. Keep expanding and recognize that it is all you. And that the reason why it is all you is because your consciousness, your point of view is the thing that is experiencing it, is defining it, is putting meaning to it. And it's your meaning. It's your definition. And how you add meaning to it is how you exchange with it, how you interact with it. That determines, again, how that responds or how that changes or morphs. It all starts with you. So this isn't something that has to be hard or complicated. Even though I get that the mind shift may take a moment, right? But if you just simply play with the idea and imagine it, then you'll start to make minor shifts to get you to the point of this self-realization. So you are not alone, my friend. First off, I am here with you. All right. And I am, you can even say, you. I am you. Everything is you. Everything is seen from your point of view. Everything exists for you, in support of you, as you. So let go of this idea that things are separate. They are not. That is the ego's reality. We are led by the ego. We know it doesn't create anything positive. It creates suffering for us. Okay. And not that the ego is the bad person, is the villain. It isn't. It's just that we haven't figured out how to master our egos, and we are on that path. So when you take away these barriers of limitation and limited belief systems and paradigms, you take that away. On this board, it looks like nothing, but actually it means everything is here. Everything is all one. Okay. This board Most people look at it and they say, hey, there's nothing here on the board. But the board in itself is everything. Once I put something here, then we create a focal point where, oh, there's a circle. That shifts the whole experience of all things. And we just get into focusing on this. When there is more of all of this than there is this. This is how the ego tricks you. The ego is focused and fixated on a thing. Usually it's a problem. Usually it's struggle, and usually it's fear, right? Because why? The ego wants to protect you. But when we start to break away those boundaries, let's go back here. You, right, once felt alone. Right? But when we take away this limited idea of you, then you're not alone. You are literally one with everything, right? All one. And that's what this means. That gets into the whole conversation about something versus nothing, right? Nothing is still a thing. No thing is still a thing. So when we break down identifying with something and we get into the realm of questioning what no thing or nothing is, then we start to expand our consciousness. And then we start to really get into a very fun and amazing space in spirituality and thinking metaphysically. Okay. So, but the point here is you are all and you are one with everything. You are not singular and by yourself. All right. So I thank you for listening. Feel free, go to thefutureselffrequency.com, pick up the book and the journal. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below and I'll respond, or even will make a video for you. All right. Thank you so much. Once again, peace and abundance always.